Here we go.
Oh, yes. Now it's recording.
Now it's recording. Oh my gosh. So, hello and welcome to Peanut Butter Jenny Time, the show where I speak to a different guest every single week and we have a silly time together. Today, my guest is Nick White.
Hi.
And this is actually our second time recording this because Jenny Tian did not press record previously. So, thank you, Nick.
But that's fine.
Thanks for being
I
patient.
like when that happens.
You like mistakes.
Yeah.
You like answering second.
It keeps it real.
It keeps it real. Yeah, you love answering questions again a second time round.
Yeah.
So Nick, you pop up on people's algorithms all the time, but for the people who do not know who you are, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Nick White. I'm a comedian. I started doing stand-up about 5.5 years ago. And then started doing online stuff about 2 years ago. And then within like the last year and a half, it's kind of taken off a bit. And I just do a lot of characters and sketch comedy and stuff like that.
Absolutely love it. Yeah. And like your fandom is obsessed with you. Like my normie friends who like, they don't go out to live comedy, they don't watch any stand-up comedy, they don't even really use TikTok or Instagram that much, impersonate you to no end. Like they'll just chat to me and they'll be like, and then like they'll just keep doing their impersonations and they'll just be like, this dull co-worker, oh my God, I have that in my office, she's there.
Yeah,
like
I love that. That's so weird that also sometimes mums send me videos of their 3-year-olds being like, I'm like, that's weird. Why are kids saying this?
That's wild.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. But yeah, it's crazy, hey.
Yeah. What's like the wildest like fan thing that's happened to you?
There's been a few. Well, probably what happened the other night at my show that you were at. So I produced a show with Jess Fuchs and Jenny was on the lineup on Wednesday. And yeah, this woman came up to me and she's like, hey, Nick, my son Sam is a big fan. He's 12 years old. And then I was like, cool. And she's like, yeah, he does impressions of your characters. I was like, that's awesome. She's like, yeah, let me show you. And I was like, oh, I'm actually trying to
I'm running a show.
Produce a show. Nah. But I was definitely happy to see it. And it was so cute. Like, he's like, hi, Nick. Yeah, like I want to do what you do when I grow up. I love your impressions. And then he reenacted one of my sketches with his mum in it. And then, and it was awesome. And then I was like, can I film a video for him to watch? So I just got her phone and I was like, hi, Sam, that was really good. Yeah. And then I came and told you guys. And then while I was telling you about it, she brings her phone over again and he's on FaceTime. She's like, hi. So that was pretty crazy.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, okay. And then like in terms of these characters that you come up with, which would you say is, I know this is the second time around I'm asking you this.
But I'm still like, go on.
You're like, me? Ooh, yes.
I'm like, I haven't thought about it.
Which is your favourite to do? I'll let you know my favourite.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the second time around recording and I already know yours. I love so many, but I love the architecture person. That's like the one that organically pops up on my For You is like the person who just like, you're having a casual chat with them and they'll suddenly put their coffee down and be like, the way the roofs are built, so then the water can drip down. And like, I'm like, oh my God, I've been on so many dates with guys that do that friends that do that and they start talking about concrete and I didn't
realize it was relatable. Like,
oh, it is so relatable.
The reason I do that character is because I worked in architecture and I used to just cringe at the way people would describe stuff. I'm like, shut up. So then when was the first architecture? Oh yeah, it was on my last day at my job last year. And we were having like Friday drinks on my last day in the office. And then I was like, can someone film me just like talking shit? So I just like went up to like the design hub, which is where we would do presentations. And I just started talking shit and it did really well. But I didn't And I was like, oh, a lot of architects must see this. That's why they do well. But I didn't realize it was like a relatable thing for everyone.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, especially where everyone now kind of thinks that they know a lot about design and whatnot. They're like, oh yeah, this like brutalist structure is like this. And then they start analysing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the comments is like people being like, but I actually do this and it's important because I'm like, shut up. Nah,
You're the person in the video!
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. But please tell me who your favourite character is to do.
Yes. This one.
The one right now.
Yeah, no, it's probably at the moment Carly, who's my dull co-worker.
Yeah.
Just because if I find a character funny, then I just do it anyway. But when like the public also find it funny, it's just like a back and forth of like, well, they like it, so I'm gonna keep doing it, and then like this energy of the character developing, and because all my characters end up becoming so weird the longer I do them, because I need to keep pushing them so I keep finding them funny.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just like, this is boring now. Like,
Yeah,
like my annoying coworker character became so weird. Like he just started as like, so what I might get you to do for me, and then like a few months in, he was like, yeah, and he was like not relatable anymore.
Yeah,
and then I eventually toned it back again so it could be relatable again.
Yeah.
But even all my characters just take they have a weird progression. It's because they're part of me. Like I don't just do them when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna film a TikTok, and then I do it. Like I do my characters all day when I'm with my friends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
so
like even like when I got here, I feel like when we were in the elevator, I was like, yes, so this is nice. Like I just always like, if there's a character that's in my life a lot at the time, I do them a lot.
Yeah, so this is just like it's like your part of like your social dynamic as well.
Yeah.
Like you just do them all the time.
Well, I came up with my first character when I was 7.
What was the character?
Her name was Noni.
Oh, and
she was just very like, hi, Dal, like very based off my mum and her friends and like my grandmother kind of, and like just those women are like, oh, look, Dal. And then like, it would have been so obvious I was gay. I was like the 7-year-old going around like, oh, listen here, Dal. Like Noni was always like, yeah. And then like even at uni, I had a lot of characters, and and I just get really into them, and I just like to make people laugh, so I just do them.
Yeah. Did you ever watch like, I don't know, Jim Carrey or whatever, or other impersonators, or did you just naturally just do them?
I just did them, but also my favorite show when I was a kid was the Amanda Show.
What is that?
You know Amanda Bynes?
Oh yeah.
She had a sketch show on Nickelodeon.
Oh.
It's kind of like SNL for kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then you watched that.
Yeah, I was obsessed with The Simpsons and the Amanda Show. And Amanda Bynes would play like all these different characters.
So clear you were gay.
Oh yeah, I know. I was obsessed with Amanda Bynes. I still am.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say like The Simpsons and the Amanda Show really shaped my sense of humor at the time, because like, yeah, and it was bad because I was so observant of like people's little traits and stuff. I could be really mean when I was younger, because I was just so good at being like, well, you do this, and then they're like, oh, and I'm like, well, you do, like. So now
have you looked in the mirror?
Yeah.
I'm not. Everyone is seeing this.
I'm like,
you know?
realize that you speak like this, right? And they're like, oh. And now it's like, well, I need to filter it in a way now that I can, use it as comedy.
Yeah.
But as a kid, there was a fine line between like being mean to other kids, because I could pick out things about them that were funny.
That's like a superpower, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if you were a superhero, you would go up to the villain and be like, but did you know you did this?
Yeah. I'm like, when you laugh, your head does this. So yeah, it was sometimes I was mean to kids, and I think it was also like a defensive thing, because I was gay, and I was like, so that no one would be mean to me, I'm like, you realize that like you have a little lisp or something. Like I wasn't. Yeah, but then, enough of that.
Yeah. But then like in your, like growing up in primary school and high school as well, you were saying that you were really quite isolated, right? And that you wouldn't like hang out with people because you were scared of being weird, right? Like
I just tried to fly under the radar.
Yeah. And
like,
why was that?
Well, like when I was younger, like primary school, I was very outgoing. Did a lot of like speech and drama and stuff. And I did drama outside of school for 2 years as well. And then I even like, when I was in grade 5, I'd like come up with an idea at lunch, and I'd come up to the teacher and be like, can I like perform something this afternoon? Like I came up with this character or like something like this. Like really outgoing and didn't care what people thought. And then I got to about 11 years old, And I think that's just the age when you start to become a bit self-aware. Like, you're growing up, people start going through puberty, and you just are growing up in general. And I didn't realize I was gay yet, but I was like, I just realized I don't fit in. Like, because that's also when the boys and girls start to like branch off into like boys and girls. And I was like, I don't fit in with boys or girls, and I just feel so weird. And then to prevent getting bullied for being weird, which I thought that's what would happen, I just really made friends with all the really quiet kids. Didn't do anything extracurricular, no sport, no anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then no drama.
No drama. Just because I didn't want to get bullied, because I thought I was a freak. And I am a freak. I'm really weird. But now it's like, I love that I'm weird because I get to do fun things like this podcast.
and people love that
and
you're
people
weird.
like it. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's just like, at the end of the day, the fear of not being accepted for who you really are, and the way that you express yourself. I had exactly the same thing when I was growing up, where I was so like painfully shy. Although I never did impressions when I was younger. I was never funny, and I would just like retreat and hang out with the nerdy kids as well. I'm like, the nerdy kids who study, yes, and
they're a safe space.
They're safe, and you just like, it's so scary to like, you know, be loud or whatever. So then just kind of like suppressing and like, you know, shutting down all those other parts of yourself, because you know, you're just like, well, I can't be that person that's like outgoing or whatever, so I'll be like this. And you had this time in your life where eventually you came out of that, and you moved out of, and you're from Brisbane as well, right? So you moved away from Brisbane, and then you went to uni there as well, and you found a group of friends there. Like, tell me about that and how that made you kind of come out of your shell a bit more.
Well, yeah, I reckon like, even though my high school experience wasn't great, I always say, like, I don't regret, like, I'm glad things happened the way they did, because I'm like, if I wasn't forced to kind of be this quiet, observant kid, I wouldn't be able to do what I do now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always like, if I was just like gliding through high school, like so confident, I feel like my life wouldn't be as cool now. Like, it'd just be not as interesting. Yeah. Because I think being forced to be an observer makes you more interesting. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Because that, and I think ultimately the people that do take on characters are very good observers. Like, you're able to pick out the little intricacies, the little like cliches and things that people say, or like the facial expressions or whatever it is, and then take it into comedy and then exaggerate it. And you can't do that if you're not standing there and actually like taking a moment to observe people, because the class clowns are not in there like, you know, they're too busy like being in the moment to really like stand back.
Exactly. But yeah, then when I was at uni, I think it was my second year, no, it was my first year of architecture school. I was like 19, and there were these 4 kids in my class. Well, I guess not kids, 4 other 19-year-olds. And they would always sit together, and I used to see them and be like, whoa, they are the 4 coolest people I've ever seen.
What made them so cool?
Well, I think it's because what I liked about them, and it's also around the time I started watching Community, you know, that show?
I love Community.
Yeah, and it was the show I was becoming obsessed with. And these 4 people, they're my friends Marcos, Naushin, Alvin, and Lexi.
Shout out.
Yes, shout out. Hope they're listening. And it was kind of like the 4 of them seemed so different to one another. And like in high school, they probably wouldn't have hung out. But the fact that they were just like these 4 really interesting, creative people that would hang out at uni, I was like, they just seemed like such an interesting group of people. And they sounded interesting. Like, I'd sit at the next table and kind of be like, and I was like, wow. And then I was in another class with my friend Naushin, and then she started to tell the others like, oh, we should sit with that Nick guy in our other class. And then apparently my friend Marcos at the time was like, nah, he's too quiet. I always bring it up now. I'm always like, remember when you said that?
Well, look at me now.
Yeah. But now they're like my 4 best friends. And Naushin lives in New York, and then Marcos and Lexi came to Sydney for my 30th and stuff. So
that's so nice.
Yeah, and they just brought me out of my shell because they were just like really exciting people, and they just really inspired me. And they were all planning to go on student exchange the following year. And it wasn't even like, are you going to do that, Nick? It was more like, where are you going to go? And I was like, I don't know. And then so I did that because of them. And then that changed my life. And then that kind of just started a domino effect of like other things I've done to go outside my comfort zone, because I started to be like, that's where fun things happen, when you go outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. And then what about coming out? When did that happen?
Yes. So coming out, well, I moved to New York when I was 25. And
again, wow, I did not know this about you.
yeah, in the first recording, Jenny was like, "What?"
Yeah, I'm like, you lived in New York, and you weren't just like the thing of, you know, what a lot of people do is like, oh, I'll go to New York, and then they come back in like a year, and they're like, that was really expensive, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You were like probably working in architecture in New York.
Yeah. I only came back because like because I was there for the first year of the pandemic as well.
What, you were there?
Yeah.
How did I not know this?
Yeah.
Did I know you at that point?
No, because I only moved to Sydney 2 years ago.
Oh my!
Yeah.
You've only been here for 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know why it feels
That's why
like
so many
it's been
people
longer.
think I'm new to comedy, because I've only been back in Australia for like 2 years.
Oh my god!
And they're like, he's just this TikTok guy that started doing stand. I'm like, no, I started stand up in Brisbane like over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so tell me about
Yeah.
living in New York and your experience in New York.
So I got there, and then I got picked up my bag, and then well, yeah, I moved there because I was 25, and I had just graduated my master's in architecture, and then I was just working full time, and I was like, this is boring. I was like, is this my life, just working full time in Brisbane now? I was like, no, I need to do something else.
Love
and
it.
I had just started doing stand up. I'd been doing stand up a few months when I decided to move to New York.
Also, before we jump to New York,
yeah.
how did you start in stand? What made you go, I'm going to try and jump on stage?
Well, when I was 20, that was around 20 was when I started to become more confident.
Yeah.
And then I saw raw comedy was a thing. So I just entered.
So Raw was your first?
Yeah.
What?
And yeah, so then I did raw when I was 20 and didn't get past my heat. Then when I was 23 and I just graduated my undergrad, I was like, well, I'm just going to enter raw again.
That's
so
the
that was my
only mic you did, yeah.
second gig ever was raw as well. But then I got to the semis that time.
Oh my god, yay!
But then that was it. And then I maybe did 5 open mics and then entered raw for a third time.
Oh yeah.
And I made the semis again. But I basically wasted all my raw turns. And then that's kind of, start of 2018 was when...
Oh yeah, and Raw also it's a comedy competition. It's like an open mic competition.
It's like the
that anyone
biggest...
can enter.
Yeah.
It's big, and if you make it to the final, then it's good. Big thumbs up.
It's a good launch for your career.
Yeah.
And then, and around the time of the third Raw was when I was 24, and I started doing open mics consistently around that time.
Yeah. What made you go, I'm going to enter Raw?
Well, I just always knew I was funny. And then when I was in my early 20s and I was making friends with all these people that really inspired me and I thought were really cool, and I was making them laugh, and they were like, you're the funniest person I know. I was like, I thought I was just funny to the nerds. Like, I didn't know that I was funny to like cool people, or like people that I find really interesting.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, I was a big stand-up fan. Like, I always watch Australian comedy. So I was like, I'll just try it.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. Like I'd say like my first 10 gigs, I'd think about them all day. I'd be like, I'm so scared.
And then, like, how nervous were you for it? Because when I was first starting, I was so obnoxious.
When did you start?
It's been like 6.5 years now, and started in Sydney at Molotov Comedy at BED in Glebe, and that was I just googled open mic Sydney or like Sydney comedy open mic, and then that was the first result that popped up on Google. So then I went there, and it was one of those sign up on the nights where everyone gets on. And I watched one show, the whole thing, till like midnight, and you know, there were some people that were really good, and you could I could tell that they'd been doing it for years, and there were some people where I'm like, oh, this is clearly like your first or second time, and I think I could be funnier than this. And I'm like, if they're on stage and they're, you know, doing this, then why can't I do it? And the next week I went back, and then I just kept going to that one open mic, not realizing there were others. And then, you know, after a while, some comics told me about like the Open Mic Sydney Facebook group, and that's kind of how I got started in it. But I had the same thing where I was like, growing up, I was never funny, and I had people tell me I was not funny either.
Oh, right.
Because I was like such a nerd.
Yeah,
I was just such a quiet nerd.
Yeah.
And I was also really weird growing up as well. So I was just like, I'm like, I could never do this. This is a bucket list item. But then I just loved it so much that
oh, cool.
I kept
so
doing
it was like
it.
a bucket list kind of thing. You were just like, I just need to do it.
Yeah, I was like,
that?
and then I can just tell people that I've done it.
Yeah.
And then I was so ashamed of like having the world and my world being my friends and family, knowing that I had tried an open mic, that I went by a different name. So I used to go by JT, which some people still call me.
Oh.
But I was like, that way, if a friend or a family member was here or they told other people, then, I could just deny it and say that wasn't me, because that's not my name. And that's how like scared I was of people finding out that I did stand up, and I didn't tell anyone for like at least 6 months.
Wow, that's interesting.
And that was just my friends and family. But yeah, no, back to you. And back
Wait,
to,
I just had a thought. Like,
yeah.
I remember when because my first gig ever, I was 20.
Yeah.
Then that was Raw, and then I didn't do it again for like 3 years. But
3 years, Jesus.
Yeah, I know. But I'd always be like, yeah, I've done stand up, and everyone's like, my friend Nick has done stand up. I'm like, yeah. They're like, how was it? I'm like, yeah, look, it's hard, but and then I was like, I should probably do it a second time. So I was like, so annoying.
Yeah, I've stood on a really big stage, guys.
Yeah. At the Sit Down Comedy Club in Brisbane.
A really big deal. It's like when you scroll through dating profiles and people. Have you seen? I don't know whether you've seen it, but these guys that are like stand-up comedian, and I look through their profile and it's like a photo of them at like Crown Comedy.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
It's so like I've only started calling myself a comedian recently-ish. Well, now that it's like my full-time job, I'm like, okay, I can say I'm a comedian now when people ask. I always felt like I was always like, I do comedy, but now I'm like, now I'm a comedian. That's how it feels. But there's no rule. But I just always felt cringe saying it when
100%. It's like
I was like, I'm not making money really.
Yeah, it's a title that you feel like you have to earn, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like you can't just do an open mic and then say you're a comedian. That's not how it works. You've made zero money off it.
If only it was that easy.
Okay, so you felt more comfortable with these friends. You came out, and then you were in New York. I still can't believe this. You were in New York, and like, what was the scene like over there in terms of comedy? Were you doing it regularly?
I mean, when I first got there, I kind of hit the ground running and did some open mics, and they were like okay. There were some that were okay in Manhattan. And I was only just starting to come out around this time. And I was only just starting to write jokes about being gay. So like, it was all new to me, like, about like being that open. And then I did this thing called the Industry Room, which is like a bringer show where you have to bring like 5 friends. But if you win, they give you some like pro spots at the Broadway Comedy Club. And I won that, which was good. I got to do like 5 or 6 spots there. So that kind of like boosted my confidence a bit. And I was like, okay, I can. But then like there was like a few months in New York where I was just kind of like really poor because I was working at a cafe and I was just I had like no money, and then was barely doing. I was like starting work at 6 a.m. and I was like, the last thing I want to do is go to an open mic where I have to pay to perform. Yeah. So there's a few months where I almost did no open mics. That's like start of 2019. But then I met at around that time I met Jess Fuchs.
Oh,
that's how I know Jess.
You met Jess in New York.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jess is another comedian, very funny.
She's hilarious.
Also started in New York. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so she was producing an all Australian comedy night, and she also just wanted to meet other Australian comics, so it was a good way for her to do that. And there's probably like 8 or 9 people on the lineup that night, but then her, myself, and 3 others kind of really liked each other, so we would do a few more shows like that. And then also around that time is when I was coming out, so I started doing some queer mics and stuff. And then I started just doing a lot of shows and mics in like the queer Brooklyn kind of, the more kind of like, alternative comedy. Like I wouldn't say my comedy is like alternative. I don't know, but just more kind of like rooms run by like cool people and stuff. And like a lot of queer mics, or like just inclusive mics, more supportive. And I loved that kind of scene.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then my last year in New York, I did nothing because of COVID.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you move back because of COVID?
Yeah, like I was there for 1 year of the pandemic, which was like a lot of ups and downs. I don't regret staying for that year. It was awesome. I lived with my two best friends and it was just like really nice. But then my mental health just got so bad eventually, and I was like, I need to move home, like for my sanity. And I was like, I need to go home to Australia where there's no COVID. Then I moved to Sydney, and then 3 weeks later we went into a lockdown here. So yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is COVID was targeted towards making my life hard.
That you actually you brought it into
I was
Sydney.
the true victim. And I was also the cause.
You were case zero. No.
I was.
Because the timing 3 weeks and then it's better. Yeah. No.
So then I came back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And okay, so and then how have you found the move from Brisbane to New York to Sydney? What's different? And why did you choose Sydney instead of back to Brisbane?
Oh, well, I went back to, well, my parents live on the Sunshine Coast now. So I went home on the Sunshine Coast for a few months, and I was doing some gigs in Brisbane, and I met some people who had started since I'd left, like my friend Meg Yeager. Do you know Meg? She was in the Raw final last night. She came second.
Oh, yay!
Hi, Meg.
That's so good.
But I just met a few like newer Brisbane comics, so that I'm still really good friends with now. And I love the Brisbane scene, but then I did this one gig where I bombed so hard, and the MC, like after I came off stage, she gets up and she goes, well, it doesn't get much gayer than that. Nick White, everyone. And like kicking me while I was down. I just bombed. And she was so rude to me. I won't say who it was, but like her acting like that I was like, okay, I'm not staying in Brisbane. Like,
that's so mean.
It upset me so much. And like, also because I just come back because my mental health was so bad. And this was my second gig back in a year.
Oh no.
And my jokes aren't even vulgar. I don't even swear. Like, they're just about coming out.
And what's wrong with being gay? Like, I just don't...
Like, I don't know what her problem was. And she was like talking to all the other comics, congratulate. She said nothing to me.
Oh,
I can't.
So
and the other day I noticed that she follows me now, and I'm like, I don't like you. I hate you. I'm not gonna say who it was.
Yeah,
but
isn't that like the funniest thing when it's like, okay, remember when you were really mean to me?
Yeah.
You know, this time ago, and now you follow me, and suddenly you start supporting me.
I know, it's so like. So that for me, I was like, I think I might go to Sydney or Melbourne, and then I bombed that gig so hard, and she was homophobic, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just start looking for jobs in Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah,
and
just like a more progressive, accepting
and like,
place.
Yeah, just like, yeah, exactly. And I was thinking Melbourne, but then my friends, so Jess lived in Sydney, and my friend Tilly and my friend Katie Wheatley. So like 3 of my best friends were already in Sydney. So I was like, I just already have like a support system there. I'll just go to Sydney. Yeah,
it's so hard being alone in like a new city and trying to find your ground, and then like trying to make friends in your like, are you in your 20s or?
I just turned 30 this year.
God.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Okay,
Thanks.
so being in your like late 20s or your 30s and then trying to make friends, that's hard.
Yeah.
Like in a new city, that is so
and
hard.
especially with a lockdown, like in a few weeks in. So, and also my friend who I lived with in New York, my friend Daisy, her family lives in Sydney. So I got to live with them when I first moved here. So
nice.
I definitely, because sometimes I toss up moving to Melbourne. I remember when we hung out in Melbourne, I was telling you, I was like, I think I want to move here, but I don't regret moving to Sydney at all, because just had some really great people here to help me get on my feet, because it was hard, like transitioning, like moving back from America, and like my mental health was so bad, and then being like, okay, time to try to make it as a comedian here, and then like lockdowns here started, and I was like, I just felt like I couldn't catch a break. I was like, and my mental health was bad for a while, but then last year things started to kind of like, and it takes a while to settle into a new city as well. Yeah. So last year was a good year. Yeah.
Okay, and then you also did your show in Melbourne. Tell me about that. What was it like putting together like a whole hour of material?
Mine was just all my favorite jokes from the last few years, but then they kind of tell a story, because it's like about me growing up gay and realizing that, and then being in Brisbane, and then moving to New York, and then coming out in New York, and then dealing with my mental health and moving back. Like, because you just write jokes about what you're going through. So I was like, oh, it actually is kind of like a narrative in a way of the last few years. And that's why I just called the show Grow Up, because it's about, my life the last few years. Yeah, but I want to have a new show for next year.
Oh, so you're gonna write a brand new hour?
Yeah, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, that's crazy, same.
Yeah, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I don't know.
And also something else I like, So, did you get any reviewers come in?
Yes.
So I got 2 reviews written. One was positive.
Yeah.
And the other one annoyed me because it's kind of like she already knew what her angle was going to be before she saw the show.
It's so annoying when, I don't know what your angle was, but I had the exact same thing where it was like they made up their mind about who I was going to be before they even saw this show.
I know.
They didn't even have the courtesy to Google me or look up any of my experience or read my bio. They jumped to conclusions based off me being like an internet thing and being brand new, like as if that was my first time. It's like, no, I've been doing comedy for years. And if you actually go out to open mics and see the level of it's very clear that this is not new to us.
Isn't it frustrating? Because it's like, I've been gigging for years, and then their idea in their head was like, he's a TikTok comedian, let's see how this translates. And it's like, I've been doing characters in my stand-up since the beginning. That's what I do. I do voices, I do characters. And they were like, and it was kind of embarrassing for them because like they wanted to be like, it didn't work, but they were like, look, it did work and it was entertaining, but you can just tell that he's just trying to do a TikTok. I'm like, shut up, like. Just I know where they were coming from, but it just, I don't know, it pissed me off.
I had exactly this. I threw a hissy fit when I read my
I was so angry. Because it's like, and everyone was like, oh, but they're still saying positive things. They're saying they enjoyed it. I'm like, yeah, well then they should have changed. Like, it's like they were just doubling down about like, well, you could tell that he was doing that little British accent because that's a viral kind of. I wasn't trying to do a viral TikTok on stage. Like, I do voices and I do characters, but I've always done that since I remember.
You have really good jokey jokes as well that are properly like written and crafted. And it's like, how about you don't scroll through our TikToks beforehand and you just take it as a show, as a proper stand-up show, like you're doing with every other person that you're reviewing, instead of deciding who we are before even doing. Anyway, I was so peeved off. I've decided that next year I'm not going to read any reviews during the run, because then it gets to your head and then you have to do a show every single night. So I was like in a mentality where I was angry, and then I had to go up on stage, and then all the little, you know in the moment that that was the reviewer's opinion, and sure, they can have their opinion and you still need to focus on just putting on a good show, but all the little negative things that they were saying about me started to creep into my head on stage. Like they were basically like, she's bad at crowd work, which I am. And that's like a real thing that I'm like, oh, I do need to work on that. And then there were just like so many other like little things that they nitpicked me on. And then in my head on stage, I was like, oh my God, what if it's right? What if it's true? And
I know. Just like, no, it's true. You start to question like, am I even good? Like, why am I here? And then, I felt embarrassed. Like,
and it's like, this is our first show. Most people, their first Melbournes, they're losing money to put on a show to hopefully pull in a crowd and make this a career. Like, why slam, people so hard? And also, we don't get like paid for like per video. It's not like when something goes viral we get paid for that. We get paid based off like if we were to partner with like a brand or whatever. So it's like, this is free content that we've put out on the internet for these people to try and attract an audience. Like, why shut down that so hard because you for some reason in your head have influencer and character impersonations as a lesser thing than stand-up.
It's kind of like they have this idea of like stand-up is this art form above this and that, which if you prefer it, like
also it's like dick jokes, come on.
Like I think it's unfair to say that one is less than the other, and then really like double down on that viewpoint even when it's kind of proven wrong. Like it's just so annoying. And I remember because a lot of the people that come to my shows know me from TikTok and they like my characters. So I do a bit of character crowd work. At 2 points in my show, I just, for like a minute each time, I just be the annoying coworker and I talk to the audience.
Which is fun.
People love it. But then after that review, every other night after that, I was like, I felt a bit embarrassed doing that. And I was like, I shouldn't, because like, also like they're my fans and they enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's reviews really don't mean anything.
It's so true.
But
Reviews
like,
don't
but
mean
it's still, it's hard to not take them personally.
It's so hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes.
I'm not gonna read them.
No more reviews.
No
please.
more reviews. No more reviews. Okay, so you also, speaking of Jess Fooks and everything, you now run a room with Jess called The Girls and the Gays, or is it The Gays and the Girls?
It's called One for the Girls and the Gays.
Okay, one for the girls and the gays.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Like, how did you come up with the idea for that?
How did we come up with? Well, Jess and I just always talking about how, like, in New York there were just a lot of inclusive rooms, and they're always just the most fun rooms. Everyone, I don't know, it's just because everyone just has a good time and the energy's always good. And there are a lot of, well, not a lot, there are a few rooms in Sydney already, like Two Queers that Brendan and Jenna do, and Queens of Comedy that AJ does. Like, there's some inclusive rooms that exist that are fun, but we kind of just, it's kind of just tiring trying to test material when there's a lot of rooms where it's like you're not getting a good read because it's like, this room sucks. There are a lot of good rooms in Sydney, but we were just like sick of not having the kind of rooms that we wanted to perform in. So we're like, let's just do our own, and like, and
it's, at the end of the day, ultimately, like, our audiences as well.
That's the other thing.
There.
It's like, we're lucky that we know that the people coming like us and like our comedy and are fun and cool. So
because the way that people are going to respond when you do jokes in like a pub is very different to your TikTok fan base, who are, I think, how many straight guys were there? It was like maybe one dude.
There's only a few
guys. So I absolutely, just such a good room. And how do you find like running that so far? Like, also running a room is when you do a comedy show, I should say that.
Oh yeah, yes. So running a room is when you just look for the venue and you just pick the lineup, then you do all that other stuff. I mean, we've only done it twice so far. And Jess is such a good person to work with because she's so like on top of stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, I love working with Jess. And she's also just so creatively and also like work ethically, she's just so great to work with. It's been really fun. Like, both of the shows have sold out and they've just been amazing. So fun.
And
like,
it's also,
I had the best time at them.
I must say, your fans. Like, it's like 90, I think almost everyone is just like a fan of you. And then they come along. So they come to see. They're like, we're here for Nick. But incidentally, there's also a really good
fun
show.
Lineup. Yeah. And we're doing it for Sydney Fringe because
that's so good.
I knew I wouldn't have a show ready.
Yeah.
So Jess and I are just gonna do The Girls and the Gays just one night.
I love it.
Yeah, because it's just fun and we get to pick all the comedians that we really enjoy watching.
Yay.
Like you.
Oh yay. It was
a good one.
Hot
hey.
crowd.
They were such a good crowd.
Both in terms of, your crowd is like, they're beautiful. They're like, they dress up and go out,
Yeah, true.
Not all crowds are beautiful.
I think it was just, I don't know. I think Jess and I just pride ourselves on just the vibe.
Yeah,
like
the
it was
vibe's
just
so
like
good.
fun.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Literally not even seating room in there. It was like, we were
crazy.
standing.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. So, with like TikTok and everything, and like, because your videos really do go viral and they pop off. Do people like recognize you when you're on like a dating app and you're like scrolling through and they're like, oh my god, it's you?
Sometimes, yeah.
And do you chat to those people, or?
I just say thank you. Well, no, it depends. Like, if anyone ever compliments me and my work, I always want to thank them.
Oh, that's so nice.
If it's on a dating app, I'm not gonna not respond to someone who's like, you're funny. I would just feel awful. But I don't know. Sometimes people slide into my DMs and I don't know.
Okay, fair.
It's also because like I'm at this point where I don't know what you're like, but like when I lived in New York, I was always going on dates. I went on so many. It's also because I'd just come out, so I was like, for the first time, like, ooh, dating.
Yeah.
And I really wanted a boyfriend, and there was a few guys that I was just like obsessed with, like over the course of the 2.5 years. But then since I've been in Sydney, well, at least the last year or year and a half, like all my energy goes into comedy because I'm like, well, it's my full-time job now. I'm not going to waste this momentum. So like dating, just for me, I went on a date this week, and that's probably my first date I've been on like 2 dates this year. What are we in? We're in July. Like, whereas in New York, I used to go on like 2 dates a week.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
You're
like,
getting around.
I was just, you know, I was like, it was just fun. But now I'm like, I'd rather just not. I'd
You're
rather
busy.
work on, like,
you're famous.
no,
you got things to do.
just like, I'm like, I don't want to waste this momentum that I have at the moment.
Of course.
So, and I'm like, I'm sick of like dating's exhausting and it's time consuming.
It's so tiring.
Yeah. So like, I just don't have time.
Yeah. Kind of the same and kind of not in that I'll like schedule a date maybe once a week.
Oh yeah. How old are you?
I'm turning 28 on Monday.
Oh, happy birthing day for Monday.
Birthing day. Thank you very much. Like I'll try. I don't know. It's really hard. And then when you do end up dating someone, like the comedy hours are the exact opposite to everyone's working hours.
I know. Hey.
So I'm free like 9 to 5, but they're working, and then I'm off to a gig in the evening, and then my weekends are like, you know, I'm off to a gig as well.
Yeah, and it's also I don't know if it's because we work in this industry and like so many people around me are also just so weird in a good way that I just like find so many people boring now. Not boring, but like
the same.
I just need like weird people.
It's so true. Like once you've met comedians and like the friends that you have who are like funny all the time and like you, they just like do impersonations and stuff. Yeah. And then you chat to someone who has a normal office job.
Yeah, and that's what like my dull characters are based off. Kind of. Like just like so many dates I go on, it feels like that. Like, so it's funny because you're a comedian, and so sometimes my friends and I, we'll just put on the TV if the comedy festival's on, and we might just see a Carl Barron set or something, and I just say, how does he come up with that kind of stuff? Because it's really funny. And what were we watching the other day? We were watching Hughesy, and I just said, gosh, he's funny. And I listen to him on the radio sometimes. I'm just like, I just need weirder people in my life. I feel like
life, please.
Well, I feel like when my day to day is just like waking up and being weird all day now. So I'm like, it just feels like I don't know. It just feels like I don't know. I went on this date the other night and he was so nice, but I was kind of just like, I'm bored.
Yeah, he's so boring.
I could be with my friend Tilly right now, wearing a wig, being a psycho.
Yeah,
which is like more fun to me.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I know. It's just they're boring.
What I'm trying to say is I'm so crazy. Yeah.
We might move on to our next section now for clapbacks.
What's clapbacks?
Oh, maybe I didn't tell you.
Oh, I'm scared.
Clapbacks is the section where we pull up the mean comments that we've gotten from TikTok or Instagram, and basically we clap back against them.
Oh, okay.
Do you ever get anything?
Oh, yeah.
Do you?
Like not probably less than 1% of the comments are mean. Probably even like less than 0.5%. But I always see the mean ones and I get so annoyed.
Oh, what are like some of the mean ones that you get?
Well, I got one the other day. Like, so I did that little mini series on TikTok and Instagram.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, The Office. Yeah.
And I did that. And then this guy was like, yeah, good job, but all your characters are like the same. So keep going, but you just need to grow and expand. And I was like, who are you? Like,
that's so condescending.
And I was like, and then I responded. I was like, don't tell me what to do. Like,
yes.
I respond to comments that piss me off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know I shouldn't, but like,
I'm always scared that makes me look even more petty and that I've wasted my energy on them.
Yeah, but I also just like, don't. I'm like, go away.
It's also like it teaches someone like, hey, that's not. Oh, you can't say that to someone. Yeah. Like you put hard work into this series.
I know, and like it's also because like I just disagreed so much. I'm like, all my characters, some of them have some similar traits, but they're all very different.
They're distinct as I
and then
agree.
this other comment the other day, he's like, oh, bro's just trying to stay relevant now. I was like, what? This is the best my career has been doing. But then you start to think like, am I just trying to stay relevant. I'm like, shut up.
You are very relevant.
Thank you.
Trying to stay, excuse me.
And then I replied, I was like, wait, me or one of the characters? And then he's like, no, you've had a few hits and now you're just like trying too hard. I was like, well, it is true. I am trying hard. But it's important to try
It's important to actually try. That's kind of how you get things done, mate.
Do you get a lot of mean comments?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
And this is kind of what my next show is about. So I do a lot of Australian content, but the more Australian content I do, the more racist comments I get.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like my very first one I did was I did one of Dua Lipa, and it was one of my first ever TikToks, and it's like if Dua Lipa was Australian, and you know the song Levitating. So I do the stuff, the chorus. I'm not going to sing it because I'm a terrible singer. But then at the end where it's just, you know how Dua Lipa goes yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like yeah nah. Right, silly. And then someone in the comments was just like, you know, we need an actual Australian to sing this, not an Asian.
Really?
And it's just like, what?
What the hell?
I am Australian, and I came up with this joke. Like, why does it matter what the background is of the person who's telling the joke?
Feel the need to like express thoughts like that. Like, it's so. Who would even think that?
I know.
That's so stupid.
It's just so. I'm like, I don't understand how you jumped from Dua Lipa to
and like getting annoyed about that.
Yeah,
it's so psycho.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I get mad because I'm like, what's wrong with you? But then it's like, yeah, it's not worth your energy. Hey,
it's so not. But I've screenshotted it and put it in my show.
Oh, good. Yes. I'm like, it's not worth the energy. But make a show about it.
but if you can make content out of it, do it.
Because that's a cool idea for a show.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is it about like, what's it about? Like,
it's called Chinese Australian, and it's about my rise to TikTok basically, and how I got because I think the introduction and what people still kind of know me for is the videos I made over the pandemic. And it's kind of like similar to your show, like the trajectory of that. And there's like an arc that follows that. And then also like my mental health as well around that time and during lockdown and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, I don't really have an ending for it yet. I'm still writing it. But that's the general thing of what it's about.
Well, I'm kind of having this, because like, yeah, as I was saying earlier, my material just reflects like what's happening in my life at the time.
Yes.
And then like, yeah, the last year, my life has been about like gaining this success and like my life's been changing. But I'm like, and I've been writing jokes about that. But I feel weird talking about it sometimes because it's like, I don't know. I never want to sound like I'm bragging. I'm like, so you know when you're an influencer and this happens, like,
because it's so I would get it, but it is so highly unrelatable.
I know, but that's why I'm like, I don't want to not. Yeah, I want to do a show that's about what I'm going through, but I just have to find a way to make it funny, even if it's not relatable. I guess because like some weird things have happened in the last like year or so where it's like, this is funny. Like, it's so funny. I don't know if you feel the same. Like, I see myself as a comedian.
100%.
And then when I get invited to influencer things sometimes, I'm like, they're so funny. Like, it's hilarious.
It is so... it's the amount of, like, the phones come out, the selfie light thingos that people have.
Yeah, there's some crazy... I remember the first event I ever went to, and I actually saw you at it, but I don't know if we had met, so I was too shy to say hi to you. But it was that one... where was it? It was in Potts Point, I think. It was called like The Social or something. There were people that were literally just sitting in the booth for the whole night with like the phones with the huge lights, and they were just like... and I was like, what the hell? Yeah,
and then filming TikToks there as well. Like you're in the background of someone's vlog 100%.
Yeah.
Like
I like to go to events and if I get invited to an event, I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm a comedian, so there's a good chance I'm going to make fun of whatever is happening here.
Exactly. It's just the point of view and perspective, right? Like, and then again, just being that observer and noticing all the things. They are pretty... Because it's like comedians are certain types of characters, but influencers are like another level of like, whoa, this is so much personality.
Yeah, I know. There's some big personalities here.
Yeah, and then I kind of just like with those events, I gravitate to the people that are kind of quieter and who do like... I don't know, financial advice. Like those people.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I remember I went to 2 events during like Fashion Week. They weren't like at Fashion Week. One was a KFC one was a Levi's one. And both of them I was like, this is so weird that, like, I remember the Levi's one, every comedian that I saw there, they were just like, I'm leaving because I feel so, this is, I'm like, why am I, everyone was so hot. Everyone was a model or like, and I was just there like, like, you know, I just felt like the jester. I was like, I'm not hot enough to be here.
Oh man, I feel that at every influencer event. I'm like, I'm wearing the wrong thing.
I'm like, I got this from Vinny's. Like, but I think I just like hanging out with cool creatives. And like a lot of influencers are cool creatives.
Yeah,
but,
100%.
But then there's some influencers that are just intense in a intimidating way. Yeah.
I feel you. Yeah. And you're like, okay, cool.
I'm like,
go away, please. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna wrap up the pod now. These are questions that I ask at the end of every kind of podcast sesh. So the first one is, do you go to therapy?
At the moment I'm not. I was last year, and then I started medication for anxiety. And around that time my therapist was like, you're doing pretty well, and I was like, yeah. And then this year I'm like, I should probably start again at some point, but short answer, not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay. From therapy, what was the greatest lesson that you learnt?
Oh gosh, some of the best lessons I learnt weren't from therapy. They were just like from videos I would watch on YouTube around the same time when like my mental health was really bad, because I had like really bad health anxiety. Have you ever had that? Like a hypochondriac?
Oh no.
Yeah, that's why I moved home from New York, because like it just got so bad. So like I spent most of my time around that time of my life just like watching YouTube videos and like seeing therapists, because I was like really not good. The main thing that helped me, because like as a hypochondriac, anything you feel in your body, you're like, that's a symptom of this, because you just know every symptom of every disease. And then like one thing this guy said in the video one day, he's like, bodies are noisy. Okay, bodies are noisy. You're always going to be feeling something, seeing something. I'm like, yes. So that's helped me a lot. And anytime I'm like, oh, what's that? I'm like, bodies are noisy. Chill out. So that helped me.
I love that. Yes, bodies are noisy.
Yeah. Because when you're a hypochondriac, anything, because you're so in tune, because you're so like sensitive and anxious, and you just notice everything. Yes. And it can make you spiral.
Yeah. And it's like, it's supposed to happen. It's fine.
Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah. Before the final question, do you have any plugs? Anything that you're plugging at the moment, or your socials?
Wait, when's this coming out?
Within a month or 2.
Oh, well, it's hard to say, because there's a lot of things I'm working on, but I don't know when they're coming out. I'd just say, just follow me on social media, I guess. Okay. Because then I'll talk about everything as it comes out. Yeah, what are your socials? So Instagram, Nick White 49. So let's just think White 49, N-I-C-K, white, like the color, and then a 49. And then on TikTok, Miss Nikki Wanty. Oh, or just search Nick White. Yeah. Love it. And of course, you'll probably be doing festival circuit next year. Yes. So look out for Nick around comedy festival time as well. Yes, go see him. Final question: how do you like your peanut butter, smooth or crunchy? Oh, crunchy. Well, I didn't expect that question, but I really enjoyed that question. I was like, finally, someone's asking me about this. So many thoughts. Yeah. Oh, love it. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for joining. Thanks for having me. Yay. That was fun. See you next time. Like and subscribe and do all the fun things. Rate us. I think it helps. I've heard it on every other podcast. Yeah, just do it. Yeah, please. All right. See you. Bye. Bye.